Hi guys, how's it going? Now it's been a while since I've done an updated foundation and concealer tutorial, so I thought it's about time I made one, and this is exactly that. So stay tuned and let me know what you guys think. Alright guys, so I've already moisturized my skin, and typically what I like to do is apply an under eye cream and a moisturizer. Today I've just used a regular gel-based moisturizer. Now moving on to the makeup, I'm gonna apply my foundation, and I'm using one of my favorite foundations, which is the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation in the shade 5.5. And I'm gonna use a buffer brush. I still like, although a lot of people use a buffer brush for blending the foundation, I like to use it for the application and the blending. What I like about the buffer brush is that you can cover larger areas a lot sooner than using just, a regular foundation brush like this. So as you can see, I'm stippling the foundation onto my skin, and this is how you stipple the foundation. It's where you press the product onto your skin as opposed to rubbing it. Once I've stippled the foundation, I'm going to lightly kind of spread the product out just to make sure that there are no clumps of foundation left on my skin. After that, I'm going to use my beauty blender and again make sure that my foundation is evenly blended. Always make sure to wet your beauty blender. I don't know what it is about wetting the beauty blender. I just feel like I get a better coverage. Now that I'm done with foundation, I'm going to move on to concealer, and as always I'm using my trusty product, which is the Estee Lauder Double Wear in the shade Creamy Vanilla. Creamy Vanilla, if you live in Dubai, is a little hard to find, so I ordered mine off the Estee Lauder website. With this product, a little bit goes a long way. So as you can see, I'm just creating a triangle, and this product dries fairly quickly, so I'm gonna blend it out before I apply concealer in some other areas that need concealing. As you can see, this shade is super bright. I always use a concealer which is way lighter than my skin tone because I like a super light under eye. Once I've blended that area, I'm gonna apply just a little bit of concealer to the center of my nose and the center of my forehead. Basically the areas that I like highlighted, and the corners of my lips because I have a little bit of dark pigmentation around my lips. And again, blend away. Now I'm going to move on to contouring. Actually, before I contour, it's very important to set your under eye with powder before you do anything else. And to set my under eye area, as always, I'm using my MAC Studio Fix powder. This is a powder foundation. I'm a little bit anal when it comes to my dark circles. I have really bad dark circles, as you may have noticed at the start of this video. So just applying any powder after a super strong concealer is not enough for me. I need to apply a foundation powder over it because I like my under eye area to be nice and smooth with no dark circles whatsoever. And with whatever powder is remaining on the brush, I'm just going to apply it to the bridge of my nose and the center of my forehead, basically all the areas where I applied concealer. So I only applied concealer under eye, center of the nose, center of the forehead, and just a little bit on my chin over here. These are the areas you typically want to be nice and bright. Now I'm going to move on to contouring, and the product that I'm using is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Powder Bronzer, and I'm using a Zoeva 110 Face Shape brush. This is what it looks like. Take some product and I'm going to start contouring. Now I like a super chiseled, defined face, so I go pretty heavy with my contouring powder. If you have a very, very slim, defined face, then you can be a little bit more light-handed with the contour, but I have a full face, so I like a very, very sharp contour. So once I've made this diagonal line like this, I like to push the product upwards, not downwards so much, but just upwards, just to kind of blend it out. As you can see, the difference between this cheek that has been contoured and this one is a monumental difference. Now, without taking any extra product, with whatever's remaining on my brush, I like to kind of slide down a little bit. Do you see this sort of natural skin contour that I have? I'm just following it basically, not taking any extra product, just with whatever's remaining on my brush. There you go. Okay, so now that I've contoured my cheeks, I'm gonna move on to my jawline. I also like to apply a little bit of product right next to my ear. So the idea behind contouring the forehead is just so it doesn't appear to be as wide. So what we're trying to do with this step is we are darkening all the extra areas that we want to draw the attention away from, and also so the center of the forehead will be more highlighted. And doing this step, especially in pictures, it looks really, really nice. Because when you take, especially with flash photography during nighttime, if you're in a dark room and somebody uses a flash to take your photo, what happens is it only highlights the areas that you really want highlighted. So that would be your under eye area, because we've used a lot of light products over there, and the center of your forehead, because we are using this darker powder around the forehead. It kind of makes your forehead look a lot not as wide, basically. So now the final step in my contouring is my nose. This step for me is very, very important because I don't have a very big nose, and what happens if I don't contour my nose is that I feel like it gets lost with the rest of my face, and when I contour it, it looks so nice and defined. It almost looks like I've got a nose job. And to contour, I'm using an angled brush like this, then using a pencil top brush like this. I'm just gonna blend it. You actually don't need to use a separate brush for this step. You can just use your fingers, but I have far too many brushes, and I'm just trying to make the most of them. Then using my fingers, I just soften this area a little bit. Okay, so that finishes the foundation, concealer, and contouring. Now the final step is powder, because we've used two different colors, a very light color in the areas we want highlighted, very dark color in the areas surrounding that. So now all this needs to make sense, all this needs to come together so that it looks more cohesive and you don't end up looking like an oil painting. So you need to apply a powder to set your full makeup. So the powder that I'm using is the Kat Von D Medium 54. This is also a powder foundation. I like to use a brush like this, a very fluffy big brush, because it doesn't pick up too much product, and I don't like a super powdery face. It's always important to tap the brush as well before applying powder. And this step also helps to merge the light powder that we apply to the center of the forehead to the dark contour powder on the outside. This is almost like a top coat, if that makes sense. Now this pretty much completes your face routine, and this is what I would normally do. But if you want to add that extra edge to your makeup, and this is something I do if I have some events to go to or some nice party that I need to attend, and then I do the next few steps that I'm going to show you, but otherwise you're pretty much good to go over here. Okay, now I'm going to take the Maybelline Age Rewind. It's a dark circle eraser. I'm not going to use it under my eyes, but it's a very light shade. This is in the shade Neutralizer, and I'm going to apply that to the center of my nose just to get my nose contour to look super like defined. I do this step only when I want to get that extra highlighting. Now I'm going to do a step which is popularly known as baking. And the product that I'm using is the Kat Von D translucent powder. I'm not sure what shade this is. It's a very light translucent powder. Baking is a step where you just apply like a shit ton of powder in your under eye area, and just a touch under your contour as well. And just a little bit on the bridge of my nose. And if you haven't done your eye makeup already, which is how I do, I usually never do my eye makeup first. I just did it for the purposes of this video. Well, one of the main reasons why baking was invented is just so after you've done your foundation and contouring, when you move on to your eye makeup, a lot of the times you tend to have fallout from your eyeshadow and mascara flakes, and applying some powder under your eyes, it becomes very easy to just whisk it all off, and so that the eyeshadow doesn't stick to your under eye area, because it can leave you know, a big patch. So while this sits and bakes, I'm just gonna correct the rest of my makeup. I've already done my brows. I'm just gonna fix it a little bit more. Okay, so since I'm done pretty much with the rest of my makeup, I'm not gonna keep the powder on for too long. Now this is an interesting tip. I actually learned it from another beauty blogger. I can't remember. I think it was Lily Galici. She shared this tip. Now when you remove your baking powder, again, what happens when you use the brush in this sort of a motion is that it tends to wipe off or remove some of the makeup that you have underneath. So to make sure that doesn't happen, try to load your brush already. So I'm just going to go back and take some of my foundation powder, and because there's already powder on my brush, it's only going to remove the excess powder which is in my under eye area. Then I'm just going to use a spoolie and remove any excess powder that I have stuck on my eyebrows. I'm just going to fix my contouring because sometimes with baking, if it goes over your contour line, it can sort of blur it out a little bit. So whatever needs fixing, make sure you do that. For blush, I'm using Marc Jacobs Air Blush in the shade Night Fever and Hot Stuff. I'm using my MAC, I think this is 113. I'm not able to see the number because I've had this for a while. And I'm gonna apply that just on top of my contour lines. And I like to smile just so I can find the apples of my cheeks and make sure that I get a little bit of product on there. I tend to be a little bit heavy-handed with my blush because unlike the rest of my makeup, my blush seems to sort of wear off after some time. So I'm slightly heavy-handed with it, and I don't really carry my blush in my purse to do a top-up after a few hours, which I should really. But anyway, all right, now I'm going to move on to highlighting my cheekbones, and I always like to apply a liquid or a gel product first before applying a powder highlight. And the gel product that I'm using is the Farsali Jelly Beam. This is what it looks like. It's almost like slime. So I'm gonna take a little bit on my brush over here, and I'm gonna apply it just here on my cheekbones. I also like to apply a little bit, creating a V shape just on my hairline as well. And while that's still wet, I like to apply my powder highlight, and this one is Show Gold by MAC. The reason we are applying this powder highlight over the gel highlight is just because the gel highlight will give it a little bit of a glue to stick to. Done. So this is the final look. I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. If you have, then please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching.